Well, greetings and welcome to this special presentation on the modern day political spectrum, if you will. I notice a lot of confusion out there on who left wing is or right wing is, especially with some of the leftists, if you will, who try to lump so many people into the far right category when that's not actually true. So I wanted to demonstrate how this has evolved and all different categories that people are in to reduce the confusion. So check this out. So here's what I was talking about. Now, in the 20th century, the political spectrum was pretty much just a two-dimensional, you're either on the left or you're on the right. And then you have the today's standards, you have the radical left, who kind of seem to think that they're the ones that are normal and that everything else. I mean, from that angle, it looks like everybody is off to the far right, when in reality, they're actually still left of center. They just appear to be right from your vantage point there. Okay, but let's flip this. Now, this is a even more exaggerated version. Now, this is the new 21st century spectrum. So it's not just left and right. They've all categorizing the authoritarian versus, libertarian, or say a lack of government. I've got another chart coming up to demonstrate this. But here is another look at what the left, a lot of the younger people that haven't been around as long, don't really understand how the spectrum actually works. But then they view everybody else as far right when it's not categorically true. So let's take a look at this one. Now, this is sort of the presidential spectrum. Again, it's kind of a teaching tool, especially for the younger people that aren't as familiar with, the presidents of the past, the philosophy, the politics of the past versus today in 2022. So I'll just show you. Bill Clinton, the last president of the 90s and just barely into the 2000s, was, a slightly, left of center, a fairly moderate Democrat, especially by today's standards. But then 9/11 happened. And then you had George Bush in 2000. All of a sudden you saw a huge swing towards authoritarianism, towards the big government, towards the world of Department of Homeland Security, perpetual war, everyone's a terrorist, Patriot Act. It was a brave new world, if you will. And it was pretty terrifying. And it was an awful 8 years of seeing the country, what it had been turning into in the 21st century. So then Obama got elected so thankfully John McCain didn't get elected to continue further into the authoritarian, crazy right-wing nonsense. So Barack Obama came in. But instead of bringing things down to a more moderate level as the Bill Clinton years, it was still the huge deep state, if you will, big government apparatus, and the wars kept continuing. You just saw the policies change. You saw a lot of the social policies change to go farther to the left. But a lot of things didn't really change as far as the authoritarianism. So as much as people liked Obama, he was very slick and charismatic, he was actually very deceptively radical. And he swung things in a totally different direction. And that's where you're getting this also modern day disconnect of what the left actually is and how far extreme that it actually went during those years. So we had the 9/11 Bush, and then we had the huge swing after Obama, and then Donald Trump took over and then kind of brought things more to that moderate, more conservative level again, putting America first. And that was, only 4 years, very short-lived. And then we have Joe Biden taking over in 2020, and then going back to the Obama regime, and even, say, more authoritarian than it was. So as I was kind of playing around with some of these charts, I kind of built one of my own just to show you where all of the political parties and things stand, as the way that I kind of see them. This is not drawn perfectly to scale, but it's a good guide of where things are. Pretty comprehensive. It could be improved. I would love to see if somebody could, because I think this is about as accurate as it gets as far as things go in 2022. So why don't we just cover the different groups? I'll start at the top. We'll just kind of follow it like a clock here with the Fascists and Globalists. Now, some people think fascism is only on the right. That's not necessarily true. In fact, there's not a whole lot of difference at the very top. The fascists, the globalists, it doesn't matter what part of the spectrum necessarily, because they're all at the very top. They're all in the elite category. It's them and it's us and the rest of the people. It's pretty much a top-bottom system of control as it goes on, and that's kind of where we are at today, where you're seeing the World Economic Forum, you're seeing some of these huge oligarchs, whether they're the Bill Gates or the Klaus Schwabs or the George Soroses or the Henry Kissingers. You can name all of these super billionaire class, and some vary to certain degrees on collectivism, corporatism, or liberal conservative, but they're on the same team at the end of the day. So they're all kind of working together towards this new world order or new liberal order, or however you want to call it. But it's a style of sort of neo-feudalism and control, except for the very top. Like, life is good for them. It's not so much for everybody else. So how did we get there? Well, again, I showed in the last stretch, it was the George Bush. It was the after 9/11. That's when the neocons really took over. It was the project of the new American century. It was these elitist conservative type think tanks that wanted a state of perpetual war. And so we had the invasion of Iraq, which was unjustified because there were no weapons of mass destruction. It was a perpetual war in Afghanistan, and it was against the war at home here, the Patriot Act and the Department of Homeland Security, the NSA, the CIA, the spying. It was the TSA. I mean, everybody's a terrorist. Oh, you got nothing to hide, don't worry. But I mean, they're watching everything. It was not a good time during those years, and it's no wonder why there was a big swing left after the destructive 8 years of George Bush, the Dick Cheneys, the Donald Rumsfeld, all of these nefarious characters, the Karl Roves, the media, the Fox News. It was really nasty during those times, and it could have gotten worse with John McCain, but then it went with Obama. So we'll go to the next category, which would be the Rhinos, which would be the do-nothing Republicans. I made it yellow there for a reason, because they are yellow and scared. They're Republicans in name only. They don't actually do anything. They're more of like lifelong politicians that just want to sit there and take up space. They love having the power and control, but they don't actually do anything to actually serve the people. They're largely ineffective and frustrating. They might talk a big game, but then at the end of the day, they're swamp creatures of Washington who need to be replaced with, say, the more moderate Republicans. I'll use that row, Democrats and Republicans, as just kind of under that spectrum of authoritarianism, because I think that's where most people are, the category that they're in. They don't really want all of the taxes and all of the control going on. They'd rather, they just want to live their lives and be left alone, but they have, different political views, philosophical views on religion or fiscal matters, social issues, and that's just where they fit in, is whether they're liberal or they're conservative on that particular part of the spectrum. Then we'll go to, say, the Tea Party. Now, I think the Tea Party is mainly a response towards the rhinos and the neocons. They really emerged in the mid-2000s. A lot of it was Ron Paul. It was kind of this new wave of people that actually wanted to, the rhinos and the Republicans to do their jobs. They weren't, and they were kind of a throwback to the old school of the forefathers. And to actually get things done and to reduce the size of the government, because the neocons and rhinos, big government, huge corporations, corporations are people, all the shenanigans, all of the Wall Street, they wanted to put an end to that. But they were also more socially conservative, more the religious Christian conservative types. And so they got demonized a lot. They're not as prominent per se, but they still have an impact in Congress. And below that, we have the fundamentalists. That would be the people who are more anti-government. That would see that the corruption is terrible. Plus, they have a more of a religious angle that they would rather have run their own kind of government as more of a theocracy, more of a ultra-Christian conservative. So when the liberals were outraged about Roe versus Wade being overturned, and they're making the references to the Handmaid's Tale, this is probably where it would go, is in the fundamentalist category. I haven't actually seen the show, but I can imagine what that would be like. So they're against the United States corruption, but then they're into their very wacky religious ideology. So then we'll switch over to the left here with the Libertarian. Now, I think they're kind of a balance. Well, they sometimes get a bad rap, and they're really hard to fit into the two-dimensional spectrum. Are they on the left or are they on the right? I think it's kind of a mix of both. There's a lot of people see them as being, socially liberal, but fiscally conservative. So they're kind of on the, keeping, Republicans out of your bedroom and keeping liberals out of your wallet. And I think the main thing is that there's, a kind of a difference between how much government is enough or not enough or what have you. I think that's kind of the biggest debate you'll see with the libertarians, is some of them are actually do come off more like anarchists. And some do want limited government to some extent, but definitely that we have to change that and reduce the size of government drastically, reduce taxes, and have a lot more freedom. So that's, it's a good thing. So a lot of people nowadays relate to the libertarians. Now we can go down to the bottom there, the anarchists that are just basically no government, free for all. I think that's pretty terrifying. I guess I just did that in black too. I just ran out of colors, I guess. Is also a very scary place, like the fascism and globalism. Unless you're one of them, unless you are a globalist or fascist. That might be better. But if there's just no government, there's no rules. Maybe it sounds good in theory to some, but it's kind of terrifying. What do you do in a situation where there's absolutely no government and people are doing horrible things? Because you can't be like, hey, you know what? We should make a law so people can't do these awful things. But then you'd be creating government. So where do you go? Now, I guess idealistically, there's some kind of day far off into the future where there will be a peaceful anarchy and people don't need government, but we are a long way away from that right now. So I think anarchism is pretty scary stuff, but I could be wrong. So leave a comment and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. That's all good. So this is designed to set up a debate and to get people thinking outside the box, if you will, and to take a look at the political spectrum in a new way. So next up we have the Green Party, which is a little bit more liberal. So the difference between the Green Party and the Libertarians mainly is that they want to reduce the size and scope of government except for three major things, and that would be environment, the education, and medical. So they are green policies, obviously. They want to be good stewards of the earth. That's an important thing. Education. So having the government be involved to make sure that the citizenry is getting a good education. And also for the medical, that basically what people would consider sometimes a social program, but that everybody should have access to affordable health care. And in fact, I think under the Green Party, you would have basically free golf. It would just automatically be taxed. That's for right now. That's kind of where the Green Party sits on this spectrum. And then, of course, again, the Democrats are just the moderate people that aren't super political, don't want to work in politics, and aren't activists per se. They just lean left on some of the issues. Then we have the socialists. They're people that want to see that more big government to control and to in this idealistic sense make the world a better place. But there's going to be more taxes. And then we have the problem of who's actually running the socialism. Can we trust the government to be efficient? Because it sounds good in theory, but it's never really been worked out. It tends to grow the size of government without reducing the size, and then it becomes problematic when you actually want to get things done. So that's why a lot of people think capitalism is superior. Now, the problem is the socialists demonize capitalism because they think they fundamentally misunderstand that, because they view it in that corporatocracy sense under the neocons and the Rhinos and the Republicans of being just, extreme corporations and the crony capitalism aspect without looking at more of the free market capitalism aspects that we should get back to, which you're going to see more under the Libertarians and Republicans. And the Democrats, plenty of Democrats are capitalists. So that's where you have, say, the old guard DNC, who still holds some of that principles, but they're also kind of have gotten more into that big government. Also the big swamp creatures. They're also political hacks that are into Washington as lifers, as the no term limits, just want to sit there and collect their paycheck but actually get nothing done. So again, it's swamp creatures on the left side of the spectrum. Those are your Pelosi's, your Chucky Schumers. A lot of the mainstream media is in there. Biden, Hillary Clinton to some extent, but I think a lot of them are also going up the ladder because they keep increasing the size of government. And then you're seeing the push towards the communism as well. So that's just even a more radical and authoritarian version of socialism. It is completely opposed to freedom, the Constitution, everything about this country that made it great is communism. You want to get rid of the Constitution, you want to get rid of freedom of speech, you want to get rid of the guns and just have a top-bottom authoritarianism. The really sad part about the communism is that most of the people that seem to like it are usually the foot soldiers that think they're going to have a place someday. But most of them aren't smart enough to understand the sophisticated bigger picture that's in play, and that they're just being used as pawns to get the dirty work done for the people that are actually going to be running the show under communism. And then, of course, that will also lead into the fascism and globalist system. Again, these are the World Economic Forum. Again, the Klaus Schwabs, the Bill Gates, the people that want to micromanage your lives, the people that want to, or maybe they want to make green initiatives. It's the UN Agenda 2030. It's the Hunger Games model. It's Brave New World. It's 1984. Bad. You do not want to be there unless you're running it. So they're just trying to trick you, because a lot of them have so much money they buy up the media, they can buy up the politicians, and they can convince you to go along with their agenda. Convince you that you're hurting the planet, and they're gonna have to reduce your carbon footprint, or they have to micromanage all your money. And it's going after these farmers. It's going after the Dutch farmers protest. It's having Bill Gates and the Chinese buying up huge chunks of farmland in America. And then what are they going to do with it? Or if it's going to be, you're going to eat bugs now while they get to live on filet mignon and what have you. You got to live in a micro apartment while they are building mansions shoreside in California, because they just want to rule over you. They want to have that power and control. It's not the future you want to live in someday. So going forward into the future, I'd love to see people awaken and get wise. And I think the Green Party and the Libertarians, the Tea Party, Democrats and Republicans, I think if the good people in those can work together, rise up, I think there is a really good future. Now, these are kind of the third party options that get left off the stage, while the big money parties try to control the system into that controlled two-party system that we can't seem to get out of. But anyway, we did have a run with Trump. We'll see if he runs again, or if there's going to be new third parties, or a new future where we can just get back to our regular nationalism, and to have a smaller government, to have a more efficient government, because this is not a sustainable future for us as we go forward. So anyway, so that is my take on the new political spectrum and my analysis. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment if you want. If I got it right, got it wrong, maybe you want to do your own. But I think that's about as accurate as you're going to find from anybody anywhere. Next, it sure is an exciting time to be alive in this country. And looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. So thank you all for listening. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.